Hello, and welcome to Own Your Retirement. My name is Albert Lalonde from Kaizen Financial. If you'd like more information about what you hear during our show today, give us a call at 586-752-7008 or visit us online at www.kaizenfinancialinc.com. That's Kaizen, Kaizen. And while at my website, click on my podcast page to check out my past shows and to subscribe to our program on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Amazon Music. Okay, so the great wealth transfer is already underway, and trillions of dollars are moving from one generation to the next. But here's the problem: too many families are unprepared. Without the right planning, wealth can slip away, family conflicts can rise, and legacies can be diminished. So, today we're going to explore how to bridge the generation gap and make sure this transfer strengthens rather than threatens your family's future. Now, before we dig into today's topic, however, I want to introduce my co host, Tony Shore, who's been juggling fantasy football team rosters like it's their full time job. Now, I just hope their retirement planning isn't as strong as their wide receivers lineup.
Stronger, hopefully. I want our
Yes.
listeners to know that, hey, Albert, you're spot on. My fantasy football record, though, is strictly classified information. Okay.
Okay.
I do have a fantasy football trophy on my shelf at home. However, it is a
Nice.
trophy with a turkey on it, last place. So
Oh,
I got a
okay.
last place trophy in a league one year. So I'm hanging on to that one. But yeah, I am eager to talk about this topic today, Albert. I mean, football season comes and goes, but the great wealth transfer, that's going to
Mhm.
have impact for years to come, and it's
Oh,
well
yeah.
underway. I mean, we've got what, 11,200 people a day are turning 65, and people are aging out and transferring wealth. And I think it's going to have lasting consequences for families across the country. Um, and I know that you're going to reference some of the stats you're going to talk about are from that recent Kiplinger article, right?
Yes, the article is titled, I'm a Financial Advisor. You've built your wealth. I'll make sure your family keeps it. So,
Good,
a
good.
long title.
Yeah, it is. It is a long one. Well, I know you've been busy, and I've been busy. So
Yes,
let's get into the topic.
sure.
We're talking about something it's called the most significant wealth transfer in history. That's what you're referring to it as. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, over the next couple of decades, an estimated $84 trillion will move from baby boomers to their Gen X and millennial heirs. It's unprecedented, to be honest.
Wait, you said 84 trillion with a T?
Trillion, not
That's almost
billion,
triple
trillion.
the federal deficit.
Yeah, let's not even go on that topic right now.
Yeah, but 84 trillion, that's real money even for you, Albert.
Yes, it
That's
is.
I mean, that is a staggering number. But I imagine most families aren't totally ready for that shift, right?
Yeah, and that's where it gets complicated there, Tony. Many families are unprepared, and the cultural divide between generations, well, that only adds to the challenge of preserving a legacy.
Yeah. And the boomers have been that powerhouse generation for decades, right?
Absolutely right. Until recently, baby boomers weren't just the wealthiest generation, they were also the largest. Now, millennials have surpassed them in sheer numbers, but boomers still hold more than half of the nation's household wealth.
Yeah. And as all those boomers step out of the workforce, that wealth starts to move down the line, doesn't it?
Correct. In fact, the fortunes they've built through, let's say, strong salaries and decades of asset growth are now passing to children and grandchildren. And that creates a ripple effect, not just inside families, but across the entire economy and wealth management industry.
Yeah. It sounds like the odds might be stacked against families. I mean, there's a negative aspect to this, right?
You know what? You're exactly right. From business succession plans to charitable giving, this so-called silver tsunami isn't just a transfer of wealth. It's going to create economic waves that ripple actually for years. And boomers want their success to become a legacy. But turning wealth into lasting, let's say, prosperity is far easier said than actually done.
What do you mean by that?
Well, studies have shown that 70% of families lose inherited wealth by the second generation. And then by the third generation, over 90% of families have lost it all. It's a
Wow.
well documented problem, sometimes called the third generation curse.
Wow, that those are staggering stats. So if the odds are really that bad, how does a family beat them?
Well, let's say to be in that elite 30% of families that do pass wealth down successfully, it actually takes more than meticulous planning. Now, don't get me wrong, planning is essential. You guys all know I love planning,
Yeah.
but on its own, it isn't enough. True multi generational wealth requires multi generational engagement.
Yeah. So the family has to do more than just set up a plan. They need to work together across the generations. I think communicating and working together is probably the key
Yes.
here, isn't it?
Yes, you got it. And that begins with something simple but powerful, understanding the differences between generations.
Yeah. I guess if families need to work together across generations, where does that process even start?
Well, lasting wealth starts with early preparation. Now, across the generational divide, money is a top concern for just about every American. But how each generation thinks about money is actually shaped by their shared experiences.
Right. Like the way millennials and Gen X went through the 2008 financial crisis, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, think about Gen X, born between 1965 and 1980, and then millennials, born from 1981 to 1996. Both came of age during the 2008 financial crisis. Now, that experience left many of them financially cautious or even skeptical. And then you look at Generation Z and the upcoming Gen Alpha, those born after 2013, and their outlook has been shaped by COVID-19, natural disasters, and global uncertainty. So many of them are questioning the value of traditional financial planning altogether.
Yeah. Yeah, no wonder it's hard to get everybody on the same page with all these generational differences. You've got the hyper cautious millennials, the why
Mhm.
save Gen Zers, and then their baby boom parents or grandparents with a completely different mindset, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly the challenge. But building lasting wealth depends on bridging those gaps. Planning isn't just about numbers, it's more personal. Family values and norms often matter just as much, sometimes even more than the economic factor.
Okay. So, what's the best way to start bridging these gaps?
Well, it starts early. Teaching financial literacy to kids is foundational. Then, as they grow into young adulthood, families can begin to share more detailed wealth planning information. Things like, let's say, estate strategy, succession planning, or even charitable giving. The earlier each generation is prepared, the stronger the odds that wealth will last.
Yeah. I think that's important. So, really quick here, Albert, in case our listeners have questions, just want to remind them how they can set up that no charge, no obligation consultation with you and your team.
Yeah, listeners, you can visit my website at www.kaizenfinancialinc.com. Kaizen is Kaizen, or call my office at 586-752-7008 and discuss how we can answer your questions and address your concerns about wealth transfers, your financial strategy, or any other parts of your retirement.
Sounds good. And, you've been talking about America's Great Wealth Transfer, which is what they're calling it, and it's currently underway. And we're talking about how you can better ensure your assets are passed to the people you care about and will last. You referenced a Kiplinger article. I'm a financial advisor. You've built your wealth. Now make sure your family keeps it. So let's talk solutions. We've heard about the challenges, but what does a successful path forward look like?
Ah, well, for many families, a three-part plan is key. But here's the important part. Truly bridging a generational gap means involving younger generations in the wealth planning process itself. So that's a big shift from the traditional way of doing things. And it's one, well, the industry is finally catching up with.
Yeah. So what does this three-part plan look like?
So it should cover, well, all the bases. Number one, a financial plan for an individual's entire life. Two, a break the glass plan for life's emergencies. And then three, a legacy plan designed for future generations. So, from an individual's perspective, it's about peace of mind. It ensures that if something happens, family members have the right information and access.
Yeah, there you go. And I think that makes a lot of sense. But I've heard that when people do inherit wealth, Albert, they don't always stick with the same advisor.
Yes. And in fact, 70% of individuals who inherit wealth switch advisors. And now, sometimes it's because the younger generation wants to do it their way. But more often, it's because many firms haven't taken the time to build relationships with the future heirs.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the problem right there, and because it's not just about managing the money, right?
Right.
It's about building relationships across the family. Again, uh, really working together and communicating.
Yeah, I mean, look, historically, the industry hasn't been structured to actually serve younger generations, and their needs often weren't prioritized. But that's changing. In my opinion, firms are now focusing on holistic, personalized services. And more are becoming, let's say, certified for fiduciaries. That means moving away from the old product based models.
Yeah, yeah, I like that, and that holistic approach is something that younger generations are probably needing and wanting, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in fact, today, 52% of high net worth individuals want holistic services. That's up from just 29% in 2018. That's a major shift. And
Yeah.
it's a good news for families too. By connecting their children and grandchildren with wealth managers early, they can use this evolution in the industry to their advantage and then bridge the gap between the generations.
Yeah. I think that's great advice. And so we've covered a lot already today. Can you
Mhm.
give us a quick summary of where we're at?
Okay, so if you're preparing for a wealth transfer, here are nine key steps to keep in mind. First, start early, define your family's goals and values. Two, communicate openly with family members about your plans. Three, take inventory of assets and organize essential documents. Four, create a solid estate plan with wills, trust, and powers of attorney. Five, minimize taxes through strategic gifting and trust. And six, choose the right people and advisors to carry out your plan. And seven, educate and prepare your heirs. And we have eight, plan for those special circumstances as well, like a family business or let's say international issues. And then finally, nine, review and update your plan regularly. That's the most important.
Yeah. And 10, it's got to be a top 10 list. There's got to be a 10. And so I would say 10 would be get the family together for a pizza, have a pizza party
There you go.
with the entire family across the generations. Pizza will bring people together. You got to trust me on that one. But
Yeah, I think you
seriously,
nailed it. Yes.
that's a strong checklist, Albert, and it
Yes.
sounds like the success isn't just about paperwork then, it's about people,
Yeah,
obviously.
exactly. And helping younger generations see the value of wealth management, well, that's critical. It's a personalized, tangible plan does more than preserve wealth. It also empowers the heirs. And think of a let's say Zer, saving for a first car or home, or a millennial looking for, let's say, a cautious investment strategy. These experiences prepare them for bigger responsibilities much later on.
Yeah, and meanwhile, the wealth management industry is itself evolving to meet some of these needs, right?
Yeah, I think that's spot on right there. This is a wealth transfer is happening at the same time the industry is now shifting toward, like I said, holistic, family focused services. Families should lean into that shift because the industry already is. Now, I'd like to push our conversation about wealth transfers forward by considering another Kiplinger article titled Wealth Transfer is About More Than Just Money.
Nearly every article I've read about the great wealth transfer points to one stat, the same stat, and that's that baby boomers and the silent generation are expected to transfer, you mentioned it earlier, 84 trillion in assets by 2020 or 2045, and more than 72 trillion going directly to heirs. That's a tidal wave of money, isn't it?
It is. But here's something important. How the ultra wealthy think about wealth doesn't just affect their heirs. It often shapes the way the rest of society thinks too. So think about it. Things that were once luxuries for the rich, like let's say electricity at one time in our history, indoor plumbing, or even refrigeration, are now part of everyday life. And the perspectives of the ultra wealthy eventually filter down.
Yeah. Well, and the way they define wealth today could influence how everyone else thinks about it tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
It's somewhat
Oh, yeah.
educational.
Well, and in many ultra wealthy circles, wealth isn't just about money either. In the book titled Complete Family Wealth, the authors actually recount the words of a wise grandmother who said, "Our family has always been rich, and sometimes we've had money." That really captures it, doesn't it? Think
Yeah.
about that, you know? True wealth lies in the overall well-being of the family and building a flourishing family unit, not just a bigger balance sheet.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. I love that quote. Our family has always been rich, and sometimes we even had money.
Right.
That's great, and I like that perspective. But I imagine people listening might be wondered, well, how do you actually apply that idea in your own family?
Well, and that is the key question. You know, complete family wealth offers a framework called the five forms of family capital. Okay. We'll adapt it here into something, let's say, families of all kinds can use. It's a practical way to think about, let's say, wealth transfer beyond dollars and cents. The article also shares great insights from organizations like the Ultra High Net Worth Institute and new approaches like Wealth 3.0, which reinforces this broader view in general.
Right. So we're talking about a more complete definition of wealth. What are these five forms you're talking about?
So let's just do that right now. The first is cultural capital, which is sometimes called spiritual capital. This reflects your family's shared vision, your purpose, your values, and your roles. Now, on the simple side, order some pizza, grab a scrap paper, and dedicate a Friday night to writing a family vision. Don't worry about perfection, just get it started. That's the hardest part. Then,
Yeah.
on the bigger side, you could even arrange a family retreat with an outside facilitator if you would like. Combine vacation time with, let's say, structured sessions to refine your family's vision.
Yeah, and that's all about defining the why for the family.
Yes.
So what's next?
Well, next is the human capital, which promotes the physical and mental health of family members. An easy, inexpensive step: take a family walk or a hike. No phones except one for emergencies, and it's quality time and healthy time. Now, if you want to go further, sign up for fitness classes together, yoga, spin, kickboxing. And if a family elder can sponsor, that's a powerful way to show that health is a family value.
Well, right, and I love that health as a part of wealth. What's the third form?
That is social capital, which is strengthening relationships and your ability to make decisions together. Now, economical: start a family book club or maybe a movie night where everyone gets a turn choosing. Great starter books could be like Generations, titled by Gene Twenge, or let's say The Good Life by Robert Waldingers, or movies like Defending Your Life or even Dead Poet Society, one of my favorites, sparks
Mm.
great conversation. And then be generous. Host a virtual family game night with the professional game show host if you want. Companies like Playful Humans make it affordable and fun. And planning it 4 to 6 weeks out on a weekday evening actually works for almost everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's those are some great ideas, and it isn't just about the money, it's about building stronger ties then.
Yes. And now comes the fourth form. It's the intellectual capital, which is sharing the knowledge, experience, and wisdom of your family. So if you do it economically, have family members teach something they know. Maybe Uncle John gives golf tips, Aunt Mary shares her cupcake recipe, or Grandpa Pete teaches stick shift. Now, if you wanted to be more generous than that, record a private family podcast with basic gear and free editing tools. You can actually preserve family stories forever. And then ask meaningful questions like, what has life taught you about love, success, or even happiness?
Yeah, that one's powerful. I mean,
Mhm.
passing down wisdom is priceless, isn't it?
It is. And finally, of course, you have our financial capital, which is your cash, the securities, the real estate, and other assets. This is a well trodden path, but it's also complex. This is where consulting with your financial team is essential for tailored advice.
Yeah, and that means families can approach wealth on 5 levels, not just
Mhm.
one.
Yes, I agree. And here's the key: these initiatives take time, but they don't have to be overwhelming. Even 30 minutes a month spent on one of these areas can actually make a big difference. And most people put about 95% of their energy into financial capital alone. But legacy is bigger than money. Remember, it's about how you intentionally build across all five forms of capital.
Yeah, that's a powerful way to close that gap between the
Mhm.
generations.
Yeah, and ultimately, what you choose to do with this framework, well, it's entirely in your hands.
Yeah. And we've talked a lot about this wealth transfer today. Let's zoom in on something practical. How can someone like yourself, Albert, a financial services professional, actually help someone make sure that their assets end up with the people they want?
That's a great question. And at its core, it's about building a comprehensive financial strategy. That starts with understanding a client's goals, their values, who they want to benefit, whether that's children, grandchildren, charities, or even a family business.
And it's more than just writing a will, correct?
Much more, of course. The will is important, don't get me wrong, but that's only one piece. A financial services professional helps put together an entire framework, creating trust, assigning powers of attorney, choosing the right executors or trustees. These steps make sure assets transfer smoothly without unnecessary taxes or legal disputes.
Hmm. I imagine documentation then plays a big role as
Oh,
well.
yes, it
Yeah.
really does. In fact, taking inventory of assets and organizing essential documents is critical. But what really makes the difference is ongoing reviews and updates. Family change, laws change, and plans need to keep pace with all that.
So, having a financial services professional isn't just about paperwork, though. It's about guidance through those life changes.
Yes, precisely. And a trusted financial service professional helps navigate everything from tax strategies to special circumstances, like, let's say, blended families or international property. The goal is to give clients peace of mind, knowing their wealth will be used exactly how they intended.
That's huge. It's really powerful. Not just protecting money, it's protecting a legacy.
Yeah. And that's where financial services professionals truly add value, turning someone's intentions into a lasting plan.
All right. Good show today, Albert. Is there anything else you want to add for our listeners before we go?
Folks, you can visit my website at www.kaizenfinancialinc.com, or you can call my office at 586-752-7008. And we can discuss how to answer your questions and address your concerns about wealth transfers, your financial strategies, or again, any other parts of retirement. Remember, it's our goal to help you prepare for the retirement you've worked so hard for so you can own your retirement.
Excellent. And that does it for today's episode of Own Your Retirement with our host, Albert Lalonde.
Take care, everybody.